from the past few years that we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We don't even know what later today is going to bring, right? All we have is the here and now. And I think it's really important to think about it in a way that uncertainty doesn't automatically mean disaster, right? Our brains automatically want to jump to the worst case scenario. That's normal. But if we can take a moment to sit back and acknowledge that we just don't know, it doesn't mean that the worst thing is going to happen. It might, but it doesn't mean that.
All right, Dr. Rachel Goldman, thank you for joining us. You've been a brand partner of Rae's for over 2 years. More importantly, you're a clinical psychologist and you have an enormous, amazing practice. And so we're grateful to have you here talking about a big topic that's near and dear to my heart, everyone's heart, your heart. And that is how to navigate the uncertainty of tomorrow when we don't know what's coming from a news perspective or in life day to day, it would seem as of late. How do we navigate that stress? So thanks for joining.
Yes, and thank you so much. I'm always excited and honored to be able to speak with you and to be a part of the Rae family.
So let's talk about it. Everything impacts us so deeply. The last couple of years have taught us one thing, and that is we don't know what tomorrow will bring. And it's very taxing on mental health. How do you think about that? How do you support your clients as a mental health professional through this? Let's start there.
Yeah. And it's such an important question and something that's really important to talk about because, right, what do we know from the past few years? That we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We don't even know what later today is going to bring, right? All we have is the here and now. And I think it's really important to think about it in a way that uncertainty doesn't automatically mean disaster, right? Our brains automatically want to jump to the worst case scenario. That's normal. But if we can take a moment to sit back and acknowledge that we just don't know, it doesn't mean that the worst thing is going to happen. It might, but it doesn't mean that. So if we can kind of learn, which is not easy, but if we can learn to sit with that uncertainty and try to stay calm, we can then learn to respond as opposed to react. Many of us react out of emotions, right? We're overwhelmed, we're emotional, all these things happen and we react. But if we can take that moment to sit back, take a breath, and then learn to respond, I think it is just a healthier approach to take, and it's going to help us feel better overall.
That's amazing. I love what you're saying. I do feel like when things come up, you just automatically turn to, oh, now what? Right, from a negative perspective. But to your point, somebody gives you a phone call, that doesn't mean that it's bad news, right? And so I love what you're saying. How about, as women, often we are trying to support ourselves, supporting others, whether that be our partners, kids, friends, parents, and through a lot of what there is to navigate. How do we do that and make sure that we're putting ourselves on the priority list to navigate through uncertainty?
Yeah, and it's so hard. I mean, I think women take on a lot, right? A lot that is given to them to take on, but there's also the pressure that I think we put on ourselves many times, partly because we feel like we have to, right? Or just it's the way we were born, the way we were raised, how we are made up, right? But I think it's important to remember that we need to take care of ourselves or we can't be available to take care of others. And that doesn't mean that we need an hour massage or we need to go on some luxury vacation because we know we can't do that. And sometimes we can't do it all the time, or sometimes we can't do it at all. But what I like to think about is we don't want to wait for the weekend to finally relax. We need to find these pockets of time throughout every single day of our lives to take a step back and to just hit that little reset button. We don't need that hour. We actually only need a few moments, right? We can just breathe together right now and hit that reset button. And that's going to be doing something for us. That's going to help us show up to be better for our families, our partners, our jobs, our friends, or, all of that. So I think that's one thing we can do. And then also just be kind to ourselves and remind ourselves that we don't have to do it all. We feel like we do sometimes, but we either cannot do it all or not all at the same time, or we need to ask for help. And that's okay. I think we've also learned in the past few years that we need help. We need support. We can't do it all by ourselves. And that's okay. And we have to learn to accept that, which I think can be very difficult for many women and many people in general. But I think we have to be able to accept that and then learn to be kind to ourselves.
That's amazing. I love what you're saying. Self-compassion first, self-forgiveness for on an hourly, daily basis. Like crazy levels of prioritization and knowing you're just never going to finish your list as women, I think is also important. But I also love what you're saying about just taking a second to say, what do I need right now? And it's sometimes 5 minutes of, you just need to step outside and get some fresh air. You need a glass of water. You need to breathe for 5 minutes. I love what you're saying about those bite-sized chunks throughout the day. What are some other ways that you've found that you can give yourself comfort through these times in small doses?
Yeah. So another thing that I always recommend is to stick to some sort of routine, right? Mm-hmm. So when life happens, when we feel like life became disrupted or turned upside down, the first thing that tends to go out the window is our routine and our health behaviors. But actually, if we can just maintain that, which is not easy, but if we can maintain that, those little pieces, those survival behaviors, like our sleep, our water intake, what we're eating, our nutrition, our stress management, and our movement, then we're going to feel more grounded. We're going to feel more in control. And we can then create the rest of our day around that. And that's putting ourselves first. People may not realize that, but our health behaviors, by doing them, it's actually an act of self-care. We're putting aside time to eat. We're putting aside time to sleep. We're putting aside time to drink our water and move. And that's so important. So I think if we can remember that when we feel like we can't control things, we can always go back to what's in our control, like our behaviors, like our routine. And it can look different. Different days of routine can look different, and that's okay. But those health behaviors can still be a number one priority in order to help us function the best that we can.
So good. Manage what's within your reach, manage what, was within your control. I think that's amazing, because often so much of what makes us feel out of control or gives us, that reaction or that feeling of uncertainty is media, news, social media. How do you think about that? I feel like every time I turn on the TV or open up my Instagram, that's the level of impact that often hits you sideways that you don't anticipate.
Right. And it's so true. It's like you can be having a great day and then you just decide on your break to look at social media and then boom, right? You weren't expecting to see that. So I think that's something that we can also think about in terms of what is in our control. We have control over the media consumption. We have control over how many times we are on Instagram or on social media. So I think taking a step back and asking ourselves, what do I need right now? Maybe you need to not put on the news. Maybe you need to not be on social media. Maybe you need to block somebody or unfollow them. Whatever it is, that's okay. But the question is, what purpose is this serving me? Is it making me feel good to be on social media right now? If I'm going through something tough, say, maybe I am feeling that connection and getting what I want. Amazing. But if it's not helping you, if it's not inspiring you, if it's not making you feel good, then that's a sign. Something should be going off in the brain, letting us know this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel good. So now what do we do about it? We turn it off. We close it. We turn the TV off. We have to be mindful of that, because these things that we're consuming every day impacts us. It changes the way that we feel about ourselves. It changes our thoughts. It can change our behaviors. So it's okay. There's advantages and disadvantages of social media and knowing what's going on in the world. But that can also change on a daily basis depending on how you're doing. And I think that's really important to keep in mind. Do I need that extra connection? Or on social media, am I going to be comparing myself and not feeling good? Then that's the other sign.
It's incredible, because often when you do have a 5-minute break or you block something in your calendar, the first thing you do is reach for media or social media. So by nature of doing the other things you just discussed on what do I need, you ask yourself the question to say, it might not be social media for the next 5 minutes to give yourself that mind break. It's most likely something else. So Love everything you said. Thanks for spending time. I can't wait to continue to talk to you about this topic because it's not going away. How to navigate uncertainty with the right level of stress and managing through it.
Yes,
Thanks, Dr.
thank
Rachel.
you. Thank you so much.